All right, this is part three. I have 38 minutes left on my phone pretty much. So I'll babble on for a good 7 minutes, more about Sky Source, and I'll start reading Fellowship of the Ring. I'll finish off chapter 5 today, which is Conspiracy Unmasked. So to all you Lord of the Rings fans, you gotta bear with me. You guys obviously prefer when I babble on because it's more interesting than when I read Lord of the Rings. But even when I read Lord of the Rings, it's interesting because I'm bringing the world to life, obviously. Right? As you guys love it when I babble on when I talk about Sky Source. And that's why all these Hollywood actors, they watch my videos for comfort because I'm their last fucking hope, man. Ivan's my last hope to being rich and free, to freedom, obviously. Because in Hollywood, they're not free, man. They're dirty slaves to the system, obviously. And that's why I want nothing to do with Hollywood. Let me keep saying that. I want nothing to do with the Hollywood system. Because I'm their last hope, obviously. Yeah, Ivan O'Mara is my last hope to fame, fortune, and freedom. There's nothing better than being famous, free, and rich. That's the best of both worlds. That's everyone's dream. Everyone's dream is to be rich and to be rich and famous and be free. But there's no such thing as being rich and famous and free. It's either you're rich and famous and you're a sellout, you're a slave, you're a dirty slave, someone else owns you, or you're what? You're not rich and famous, you're free, and you're not a slave. That's how it works. And I'd rather be not rich and famous, make a good living, and be free than be rich and famous and be a dirty slave. There's nothing worse than being owned by someone else, but I don't keep saying that. There is nothing worse than being owned by someone else. Because in other words, even though these Hollywood celebrities have a lot of money, the money that they made is like cursed money, man. It's like tainted money. It's dirty. It's like dirty money because they did dirty shit to make that money. And some money that even though they have all this money that I have is what? Even though I'm able to do good things a lot with this money, I'm a little bit miserable because this money came at a price. It's tainted, cursed money, man. Whereas the money from my company is clean money. And because the actors are going to get their freedom. They're going to be free. They're going to know what it's like to have freedom. I pay your millions. At the same time, they know what it's like to have freedom, obviously. So when those actors walk into my office, I'm gonna tell these actors, look, I'm gonna tell them straight up, like, look, man, I'm not gonna be a dirty businessman, okay? I'm gonna pay your 4 million, pay your 8 million, pay your 3 million, pay your 5 million, pay your 6.6 million, pay your 11 million, pay your 9 million, pay your 9.5 million, pay you your 8.5 million. I'm gonna pay you guys your millions. All I ask is that you deliver an unheard of top-notch performance for me and you work your ass off for me. That's all I'm gonna ask for you in return. Because I'm giving them their freedom, these actors are gonna gladly sign to the deal. Obviously, they're gonna be happy. Obviously, some of them might even cry, man. Some of these actors when they sign that deal, there's a good chance some of them might sob up because there's no such thing as being free and rich in Hollywood. In Hollywood, there's what? There's dirty shit attached to that contract. So even though those actors signed that multi-year contract, there's dirty shit attached to it. Whereas for my company, it's clean. You sign this multi-million-dollar contract, and in return, I give you freedom. All I ask is that you work your ass off for me. That's why there's a good chance some of these actors might even what? Some of them perhaps might even tear up because they know in Hollywood they're never going to be free and rich. There's no such thing as freedom in Hollywood. That's how special I am, obviously. Most likely not, but I guarantee you, when they beg, some of them might cry, man. Some of them might even sob because they know in Hollywood they're never going to get fame, wealth, and be free. No way. You have to pay a price to be famous and rich in Hollywood. As I'm going to keep saying that, obviously. And that's how top notch my Skysource company is. You're looking at the best film brand in the entertainment industry. That's how top notch Skysource is. Looking at the best brand in the entertainment industry. Because that's how top notch Skysource is. That's why my wife is so proud of me. It's because of me, what? You get to live this amazing life. You get your freedom. You get to be multi-billionaire with your husband. Whereas in Hollywood, you were a dirty slave and you were not free. You were a dirty, sabotage, trashy porn star. Whereas now you get your freedom with your husband and you're free, obviously. And you're a multi-billionaire with me, obviously. Because me and my wife are going to have an embarrassment of riches. I told you, I'm going to make a good like 8, 9 billion around there Either 5 to 9 billion around there. The lowest amount of money I'll make is 5 billion. The high end is 9 billion. But there's no way I'm gonna make 5 billion. I'm gonna make more than $5 billion. I did the math. You're looking at like I did the math. If a good like 700 million people bought my ebook and my print, that came around that $9 billion range. And just looking around that amount for how much people are gonna buy my book. So I'm gonna make a good like $9 billion off my book sales, perhaps even more. 9.5 billion. And then Lulu will make like 6.8 billion, 6.5 billion, something like that, 6.7 billion, 7 billion off my book. And I'll make like 9.5 billion. So me and wife are going to be loaded. And we're also going to make an additional $4 billion off the movies and posters. And so we're going to be loaded, man. As well as we also have tax returns. Me and my wife are going to collect a couple $100 million in tax returns after every movie. Because me and my wife are paying billions in taxes, helping out the economy, the government is gonna the government is gonna give us hundreds of millions of dollars in tax returns because me and my wife are how are boosting the economy. Because we're paying billions of dollars in taxes, me and my wife are gonna be boosting the economy of Vancouver like crazy. As well as Amazon. Amazon will be boosting the economy because they're gonna be paying billions in taxes too, obviously. Both Skysers and Amazon will be paying their billions in taxes, obviously. And so I'll be boosting the economy. Boosting the economy of Vancouver. You know what I'm saying? Yes, Vancouver will not only become a more top-notch city. Because the billions I'm paying in taxes will be going towards the metro system, the train metro system, hospitals, schools, roads, bridges, all that stuff. I'll be boosting the parks. I'll be boosting the economy of Vancouver, obviously. That's how what? That's how powerful I am, obviously. And that's how amazing will like me where I live. And that's why those Hollywood actors chosen for Zanes are fucking lucky. You guys can see the future. You know when I'm going to be filming Zanes. You know how horrific Eric is. You know how top much of a movie I'm going to have. Obviously. And I told you there's a 45% chance I'll hire. I'm adding off of this before I start reading. There's a 45% chance I'm going to hire Peter Jackson or Mel Gibson to direct my Last of Zanes movie. To take the stress off me. I'm going to have this big talk with my wife. I'm going to ask VJ, hey VJ, you read my book, you know how amazing it is. Do you think I should direct it myself with a lot of help? My two script developers, my assistant director will be helping me. Or should I just hand over the power to someone else, have Peter Jackson or Mel Gibson direct the movie, have them compete for the job. Whoever's chosen, I'll have them direct the movie, pay them a nice $40 million. Obviously, and you give them producing power. They'll be one of my executive producers. You had them direct your movie. Or you think it's best I take the reins, I direct it myself. I'm going to have this big talk with my wife. But I guarantee you VJ is going to tell me to direct it myself. She's like, Ivan, it's your baby. Don't let anyone ruin you. Don't let anyone direct your story. You should direct it. I guarantee you VJ will tell me to direct it, obviously. But directing and starring as lead is fucking stressing. That's the thing, though, man. It's a lot of work. And it's very, very stressing. That's why I'm just tempted to just hire a director because at the same time, I don't want anyone ruining my story, though. But if they co-write it with you, Peter Jackson and Mel Gibson co-write it with you and they do the concepts with you, you should get a good movie as you both have the same vision. As long as you co-write it together with them, with one of them, you should get an amazing movie because they have the same vision as you, obviously. Hence why there's a good chance I'm going to hire one of them. I'll pay them a nice $40 million out of my own pocket if I hire them. And I'll pay for their hotel and their feeding for the pre-production when they're working on a script and doing the concept arts, and they'll be consulting for business if they're hired because they're my executive producers. And then they'll be starring during production. They'll be directing my movie, obviously, which will take the load off me because now I can just focus on my acting. I don't have to worry about taking all these directing notes. And taking directing notes and figuring out how planning your scenes and also memorizing your lines is fucking stressing. As a lead, memorizing your lines as a lead is fucking stressing. Hence why I'm tempted to just hire a director. That way I can take the stress off me. I can just focus on my acting. There's a 45% chance I'm going to hire Peter Jackson or Mel Gibson. Something tells me Mel Gibson's the right man for the job. But there's also another part of me that's telling me Peter Jackson's the right man for the job. Because Lord of the Rings, you have that fantasy world for. Hence, they're both really good candidates. And so if I choose to hire a director, those two candidates will be competing for the job. Obviously. And whoever's chosen will be saved. And they're going to get to direct my amazing Last of Us movie with an unlimited budget. And they're going to be saved, obviously. Now, enough of me babbling on. I've been babbling on for long enough now. I'm going to continue reading my Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring series, which is a Conspiracy Unmasked. So I'm reading a good 7.5 pages here, right? And what are they? Black figures riding on black horses, answered Pippin. If Frodo won't talk, I will tell you the whole tale from the beginning. He then gave a full account of the journey from the time when they left Hobbiton. Sam gave various supporting nods and exclamations. Frodo remained silent. I should think you were making it all up, said Merry. If I had not seen that black shape on the landing stage and heard the queer sound in the maggot's voice, what do you make of it all, Frodo? Cousin Frodo has been very close, said Pippin, but the time has come for him to open out. So far we have been given nothing more to go on than the farmer maggot's guess that it has something to do with old Bilbo's treasure. That was only a guess, said Frodo hastily. Maggot does not know anything. Old Maggot is a shrewd fellow, said Merry. A lot goes on behind his round face that does not come out in his talk. I've heard that he used to go into the old forest at one time, and he has a reputation of knowing a good many strange things, but you can at least tell us, Frodo, whether you think his guess good or bad. I think, answered Frodo slowly. That it was a good guess as far as it goes. There is a connection with Bilbo's old adventures, and the writers are looking, or perhaps one ought to say searching, for him or one for me. I also fear, if you want to know, that it is no joke at all, and that I am not safe here or anywhere else. He looked around at the window and walls, as if he was afraid they would suddenly give way. The others looked at him in silence and exchanged meaning glances among themselves. It's coming out in a minute, whispered Pippin to Merry. Merry nodded. Well, said Frodo at last, sitting up and straightening his back as if he had made a decision. I can't keep it dark any longer. I got something to tell you all. I don't know quite how to begin. We'll see. I think I could help you, said Merry quietly, by telling you some of it myself. What do you mean, said Frodo, looking at him anxiously. Just this, my dear old Frodo. You are miserable because you don't know how to say goodbye. You meant to leave the Shire, of course, but danger has come on you sooner than you expected, and now you are making up your mind to go at once, and you don't want to. We are very sorry for you. Frodo opened his mouth and shut again. His look of surprise was no comical, and they laughed. Dear old Frodo, said Pippin, did you really think you had thrown dust in all our eyes? You have not been clearly careful or clever enough for that. You have obviously been planning to go and saying farewell to all your haunts all this year since April. We have constantly heard you muttering, shall I ever look down into that valley again, I wonder, and things like that, and pretending that you had come to the end of your money, and actually selling your beloved back end to those Sackville Bagginses, and all those close talks with Gandalf. Good heavens, said Frodo, I thought I had been both careful and clever. I don't know what Gandalf would say. Is all the Shire discussing my departure then? Oh no, said Merry. Don't worry about that. The secret won't keep for long, of course. Right. So Frodo's pretty much saying, look, when I left the Shire, I wonder are all the people in the Shire discussing my departure just like they discussed Bilbo's departure? Because Frodo's plan when he left the Shire was to keep it as quiet as he can. Obviously, he told everyone that he's going to Bucklebury, whatever it is, to meet Merry and all stuff or something like that. But when in reality he's going to what? To Rivendell. Right. Oh no, said Merry. Don't worry about that. The secret won't keep for long, of course. But at present it is, I think, only known to us conspirators. After all, you must remember that we know you well and are often with you. We can usually guess that what you are thinking. I knew Bilbo too, to tell you the truth. I have been watching you rather closely ever since he left. I thought you would go after him sooner or later. Indeed, I expected you to go sooner, and lately we have been very anxious. We have been terrified that you might. We have been terrified that you might give us a ship and go off suddenly, all on your own like he did. Ever since the spring, we have kept our eyes open and done a good deal of planning on our own account. You are not going to escape so easily. But I must go, said Frodo. It cannot be helped, dear friends. It is wretched for us all, but it is no use. But it is no use your trying to keep me, since you have guessed so much. Please help me and do not hinder me. You do not understand, said Pippin. You must go, and therefore we must too. Merry and I are coming with you. Sam is an excellent fellow and would jump down the dragon's throat to save you. We do not trip over his own feet, but you will need more than one companion in your dangerous adventure. So Pippin, Merry, Sam, and all of them, they're all aware that the adventure, the journey's dangerous, and they're all telling Frodo, look, man, you're not doing this alone. We're coming with you, obviously. As Frodo wants to go alone because he knows the journey's dangerous, but Pippin and them are saying, no, we're not going to abandon you. We're going to go with you, obviously, right? My dear and most beloved Hobbit, said Frodo, deeply moved, but I could not allow it. I decided that long ago, too. You speak of danger, but you do not understand. This is no treasure hunt, and no there and back again journey, obviously. So Frodo's saying, look, even though you guys know the journey is dangerous, you don't understand what dangers lie ahead. Obviously, as there's no, this is a no there and back again journey. Obviously, it's just like Bilbo. Bilbo's journey was dangerous, like 6 years ago. He wrote a book called There and Back Again. He ended up coming back to Shire. Frodo's pretty much saying, look, this journey will not be like Bilbo's journey. This is a more dangerous journey than Bilbo's journey, as I might not even be coming back to the Shire because the journey is dangerous, obviously. That's my theory, obviously, right? I am flying from deadly peril into deadly peril. Of course you understand, said Merry firmly. That is why we have decided to come. We know the ring is no laughing matter. We're going to do our best to help you against the enemy. So Merry and them are now know that the ring has dangerous, obviously. Like Frodo, you said we don't understand, but we understand a little bit. We know the ring is dangerous, and we're going to help you against the enemies of Sauron, obviously. So the hobbits understand a little bit about what? The enemies of Sauron and the power of the ring, obviously. The ring, said Frodo, now complexity remains. Yes, the ring, said Merry. My dear old hobbit, you don't allow for the inquisitiveness of friends. I have known about the existence of the ring for years, before Bilbo went away. So Merry knew about the existence of the ring before Bilbo even left, obviously. In fact, but since he obviously regarded it as a secret, I kept the knowledge in my head until we formed our conspiracy. I did not know Bilbo, of course, as well as I know you. I was too young, and he was also more careful. But he was not careful enough. You want to know how I first found out? I will tell you. Go on, said Frodo faintly. I was the sackful biases that were his downfall, as you might expect. One day a year before the party, I happened to be walking along the road when I saw Bilbo ahead. Suddenly, in the distance, the SBs appeared, coming towards us. Bilbo slowed down, and then, hey presto, he vanished. I was so startled. So Merry tells the story of how he knew the ring had powers when he saw Bilbo put on the ring and he disappeared in the past, obviously. So that's how Merry knew something about the ring, obviously, before Bilbo left the Shire, right? I was so ordinary fashion, but I got through the hedge. I was so startled that I hardly had the wits to hide myself in a more ordinary fashion. But I got through the hedge and walked along the field inside. I was peeping through into the road after the SBs had passed. I was looking straight at Bilbo when he suddenly reappeared. So he saw Bilbo. Merry saw Bilbo just put on the ring and disappear, and he saw him reappear again. Obviously, I caught a glint of gold as he put something back in his trouser pocket. The ring, obviously. After that, I kept my eyes open. In fact, I confess that I spied. But you must admit that it was very intriguing. I was only in my teens. I must be the only one in the Shire beside you, Frodo, that has ever seen the old fellow's secret book. You have read his book? Cried Frodo. Good heavens above, is nothing safe? Not too safe, I should say, said Merry. But I have only had one rapid glance, and that was difficult to get. You never left the book about. I wonder what became of it. I should like another look. Have you got it, Frodo? No, it was not at Bag End. You must have taken it away. Well, as I was saying, Merry proceeded, I kept my knowledge to myself till this spring when things got serious. Then we formed our conspiracy, and as we were suspicious, too, and meant business, we have not been too scrupulous. You are not a very easy nut to crack, and Gandalf is worse, but you want to be introduced to our chief investigator. I can produce him. Where is he? Said Frodo, looking around, as he expected a masked and sinister figure to come out of the cupboard. Step forward, Sam, said Merry, and Sam stood up with his face scarred up to the ears. Here's our collector of information, as he collected a lot. I can tell you before he was finally caught, after which I may say he seemed to regard himself as on parole and dried up. Sam, cried Frodo, feeling that amazement can go no further, and quite unable to decide whether he felt angry, amused, relieved, or merely foolish. Yes, sir, said Sam. Begging your pardon, sir. Yes, sir, said Sam. Begging your pardon, sir. But I meant no wrong to you, Mr. Frodo, nor to Mr. Gandalf for that matter. He has some sense, mind you, and when you said go alone, he said no, take someone as you can trust. Obviously. But it does not seem that I can trust anyone, said Frodo. Sam looked at him unhappily. You know why Frodo's saying I can't trust anyone? Because the ring can possess you, obviously. So. In other words, Frodo carrying the ring with a bunch of people is very dangerous, as they can all turn on Frodo because of the power of the ring, obviously. That's my theory. That's why I believe Frodo doesn't trust anyone, because the ring can possess you, can make you evil, can make you turn on what the bear. Just like the ring possessed Smeagol and made him kill his friend. His friend didn't want to give the ring to Smeagol, and then the ring is evil because Gandalf told Frodo about the stories about Smeagol and all that stuff. Frodo is aware how dangerous and corrupt and powerful the ring really is. That's my theory. Hence why he doesn't trust anyone, obviously. Sam looked at it unhappily. It all depends on what you want. Almost done here. I have 4 more pages and I'm done. It all depends on what you want. Put in, Merry. You can trust to stick to you through thick and thin to the bitter end. You can trust us to keep any secret of yours. Closest than you keep it yourself. You cannot trust us to let you face trouble alone and go off without a word. We are your friends, Frodo. Anyway, there it is. We know most of what Gandalf has told you. We know a good deal about the ring. So Merry and all of them are saying, hey, look, man, we know a lot about the ring, obviously. So whatever Gandalf told you about the ring, we know a lot about the ring, obviously. Right? Closer than you keep it yourself, but you cannot trust us to let your face trouble alone and go off without a word. We are your friends, Frodo. Anyway, there it is. We know most of what Gandalf has told you. We know a good deal about the ring. We are horribly afraid. We're coming with you. We're following you like hounds. So Pippin and Sam and Merry, they know some stuff about the ring. They know it's a dangerous journey. They're afraid, but they want to what? They want to be with Frodo through the thick and thin. Obviously, they want to journey with him. But the Fellowship ends up breaking what in the book, obviously, right? And after all, sir, added Sam, you did ought to take the elves' advice. Gilder said you should take them as willing, and you can't deny it. I don't deny it, said Frodo, looking at Sam, who was now grinning. I don't deny it, but I'll never believe you are sleeping again. Whether you snore or not, I shall kick you hard to make sure. You are a set of deceitful scoundrels, he said, turning to the others. But bless you, he laughed, getting up and waving his arms. I give in. I will take Gilder's advice. If the danger were not so dark, I should dance for joy. Even so, I cannot help feeling happy. Happier than I have felt for a long time. I dreaded this evening. Good, that's settled. 3 cheers for Captain Frodo and company, they shouted. And they danced around him. Merry and Pippin began a song, which he had apparently got ready for the occasion. Here comes the annoying song again, right? It was made on the model of the dwarf song that starred Bilbo on his adventure long ago, and went to the same tune. Farewell, we call to hearth and hall. Though wind may blow and rain may fall, we must away our break of day, far over wood and mountain tall, to Rivendell where the elves yet dwell, in glades beneath the misty fell. Through moor and waste we ride in haste, and whither then we cannot tell. With foes ahead, behind us dread, beneath the sky shall be our bed, until at last toil be past, our journey done, our errand sped. We must away, we ride before the break of day. These fucking songs are annoying. Yeah. See. Very good, said Frodo, but in that case, there are a lot of things to do before we go to bed. Under a roof for tonight at any rate. Oh, that was poetry, said Pippin. Do you really mean to start before the break of day? I don't know, answered Frodo. I fear those Black Riders. See, Frodo, the Black Riders are on their tail, obviously, because they can sense the presence of the ring. I fear those Black Riders, and I am sure it is unsafe to stay in one place long, especially in a place to which it is known I was going. Also, Gilder advised me not to wait, but I should very much like to see Gandalf. I can see that even Gilder was assured when he heard that Gandalf had never appeared. It really depends on 2 things. How soon could the Riders get to Bucklebury, and how soon could we get off? It will take a good deal of preparation. The answer to the second question, said Merry, is that we could get off in an hour. I prepared practically everything. There are 5 ponies in the stable across the fields. Stores and tackle are all packed, except for a few extra clothes and the perishable food. It seems to have been a very efficient conspiracy, said Frodo. But what about the Black Riders? Would it be safe to wait 1 day for Gandalf? It all depends on what you think the Riders would do if they found you here, answered Merry. They could have reached here by now, of course, if they were not stopped at the north gate where the hedge runs down to the river bank, just this side of the bridge. The gate guards would not let them through by night, though they might break through even in the daylight. They would try to keep them out. keep them out, I think. At any rate, until they got a message through to the master of the hall, where they would not like the look of the riders, and would certainly be frightened by them. But of course, Buckland cannot resist mosquito or fruit fly. Fruit flies, right? Word of advice: you want to eat fruits, don't eat it in your room, as fruit flies can hatch from the fruits, obviously. Yeah. Anyway, until they got a message through to the master of the hall, for they would not like the look of the riders, and would certainly be frightened by them. But of course, Buckley cannot resist a determined attack for long. And it is possible that in the morning, even a black rider that rode up and asked for Mr. Baggins will be let through. It is pretty generally known, so the Black Riders are looking for the name Baggins, obviously. That's why Frodo's journey is dangerous, obviously. It's pretty generally known that you are coming back to live at Crickhollow. Frodo sat for a while and thought. I have made up my mind, he said finally. I'm starting tomorrow as soon as it is light, but I'm not going by road. It would be safer to wait here than that. If I go through the north gate, my departure from Buckingham will be known at once, instead of being secret, for several days at least, as it might be. And what is more, the bridge and the east road near the borders will certainly be watched. Whether any riders get into Buckland or not, we don't know how many there are, but there are at least two and possibly more. The only thing to do is to go off in a quite unexpected direction. But that can only mean going into the old forest, said Fredegar, horrified. You can't be thinking of doing that. It's quite as dangerous as Black Riders. So now Frodo and them are debating whether they should go through the old forest. But the hobbits are saying, hey, it's dangerous through the old forest. So it's just dangerous, just like the Black Riders are dangerous, right? Going through the old forest is just as dangerous as the Black Riders, obviously. But that can only mean going into the old forest, said Fredegar, horrified. That's right. So Fredegar is the fat man who owns the house, right? You can't be thinking of doing that. It is quite as dangerous as Black Riders. Not quite, said Merry. It sounds very desperate, but I believe Frodo is right. It's the only way of getting off without being followed at once. So they're saying, hey, the only way we can get the Black Riders off our tail is if we go through the old forest. But in reality, it doesn't get the Black Riders off their tail, because the Black Riders and Frodo end up crossing paths, and later on in book 1, and they end up stabbing Frodo. So technically speaking, it didn't get them off of their tails, obviously, right? Right. Right. Not quite, said Murray. It sounds very desperate. I believe Frodo is right. It is the only way of getting off without being followed at once. With luck, we might get a considerable start. But you won't have any luck in the old forest, objected Fredegar. No one ever has luck in there. You'll get lost. People don't go in there. Oh yes, they do, said Mary. The brownie bucks go in occasionally when the fit takes them. We have a private entrance. Frodo went in once long ago. I have been in several times, usually in daylight, of course, when the trees are sleepy and fairly quiet. Well, do as you think best, said Fredegar. I am more afraid of the old forest than anything I know about. The stories about it are a nightmare, but my vote, so there's some horrid stories told about the old forest, obviously. But my vote hardly counts, as I am not going on the journey. Still, I am very glad someone is stopping behind who can tell Gandalf what you have done when he turns up, as I am sure he will before long. Fond as he was of Frodo, Fatty Bulger had no desire to leave the Shire, nor to see what lay outside it. So Frodo and them are still in the borders of the Shire, I believe. Yeah, they're in Buckleberry, whatever it is, right? They're in Crickhollow. Right? His family came from the East Farthing, from Budgeford in Bridgefields. In fact, but he had never been over the Brandywine Bridge. His task, according to the original plans of the conspirators, was to stay behind and deal with inquisitive folk, to keep up as long as possible the pretense that Mr. Baggins was still living at Crickhollow. He had even brought along some old clothes of Frodo to help him in playing the part. They little thought how dangerous that part might prove. Excellent, said Frodo, when he understood the plan. We could not have left any message behind for Gandalf. Otherwise, I don't know whether these riders can read or not. Of course, I should have dared to risk a written message, in case they got in and searched the house. But if Fatty is willing to hold the fort, and I can be sure of Gandalf knowing the way we have gone, and that decides me. I'm going into the old forest first thing tomorrow. Well, that's that, said Pippin. On the whole, I would rather have our job than Fatty's, waiting here till Black Riders come. You wait till you are well inside the forest, said Fredegar. You'll wish you were back here with me before this time tomorrow, obviously. So, old fatty, the fatty guy, old fatty what? Fatty, what's his name again? Fatty Fredegar. He's pretty much saying, look, man, the old forest, I would never take the path to the old forest. The old forest is dangerous. I'd rather stay here in my house and risk getting sparred by the Black Riders and take that path to the old forest and all stuff. And when they take the path to the old forest, that's where they meet Tom Bombadil. Tom Bombadil's an interesting character, obviously. Right? You wait here till you are well inside the forest, said Fredegar. You will wish you were back here with me before this time tomorrow. It's no good arguing about it anymore, said Pippin. We have still got to tidy up and put the finishing touches to the packing before we get to bed. I shall call you all before the break of day. When at last he had got to bed, Frodo could not sleep for some time. His legs ached. He was glad that he was riding in the morning. Eventually he fell into a vague dream, in which he seemed to be looking out of a high window over a dark sea of tangled trees. Down below among the roots there was a sound of creatures crawling and snuffling. He felt sure they would smell him out sooner or later. Then he heard a noise in the distance. At first he thought it was a great wind coming over the leaves of the forest. Then he knew that it was not leaves, but the sound of the sea afar off. A sound he never... This is not in the movie, by the way, right? This is all not in the movie. Then he knew that it was not leaves, but the sound of the sea far off. A sound he had never heard in waking life, though it had often troubled his dreams. Suddenly he found he was out in the open. There were no trees after all. He was on a dark heath. There was a strange salt smell in the air. Looking up, he saw before him a tall white tower, standing alone on a high ridge. A great desire came over him to climb the tower and see the sea. He started to struggle up the ridge towards the tower, but suddenly a light came in the sky and there was a noise of thunder. And that ends chapter 5, Conspiracy Unmasked. And now I'm on chapter 6, which is the Old Forest, when Frodo and them go through the Old Forest. And after this chapter, they meet Tom Bombadil. Looking at a very interesting video for that. I'm going to show my camera for a sec.